This morning, the administration on defense after suffering 3 legal setbacks in the span of 90 minutes on funding for USAID, refugees, and the freezing of federal funds. Let's get right to CNN's Katelyn Polantz for the latest on this. Good morning.
Good morning, John. The judges are looking at these lawsuits and saying, yeah, maybe the Trump administration can't just shut off federal funding, however it wants, in very quick order, turn that money back on. So the 3 examples we got yesterday, orders from judges, 1 in Seattle, 2 in federal court in Washington. 1 said you can't shut off federal funding to refugee financial support. Another said you can't freeze federal funding to nonprofit groups through a broad directive of the Office of Management and Budget. That could be potentially catastrophic to those nonprofit organizations, essentially fatal to them. So that can't happen. And then a 3rd judge said that foreign aid money going through USAID out to contractors and nonprofit groups doing work around the globe, get that money to them that is owed. That is Judge Amir Ali saying that in court yesterday, and he gave the federal government a deadline of midnight tonight to turn the money back on, to get those payments made to USAID contractors and nonprofits. But John, the federal government then came back in court late last night in a filing and told the judge, it's not that easy. We shut off the money and it's going to take us weeks to get it out to those contractors and nonprofits working in foreign aid. Peter Morocco, the USAID top manager right now, wrote to the court, restarting funding related to terminated or suspended agreements is not as simple as turning on a switch or faucet. So they want more time. They're going to an appeals court this morning. This is a very live situation, a clash between potentially the courts, the foreign aid world, and the Trump administration over what to do with Trump's attempt to shut down that entire agency's work at USAID. John?
Look, it has such consequences. Katelyn, I understand you've got some new information about fired federal workers maybe getting their jobs back for now.
Yeah, John, another live ball in court overnight. There's a board that reinstated 6 fired employees who were probationary workers in the federal government. So they weren't on probation, they were just new to their jobs. The Trump administration is firing thousands of people like this across many different agencies. These people came from a bunch of different agencies and said, this feels improper. And the board looked at their cases and said, yeah, we agree. Reinstate them for 45 days to their jobs in federal agencies, and we're going to then take a closer look in court with more proceedings to come. One of those people who lost their jobs among these federal probationary workers who've been fired, John, it was a disabled veteran who on the same day he lost his job was told by his supervisor that his work was going above and beyond. So that's why the board thinks that there may be a problem here, because you are not supposed to be able to fire federal workers without cause. John?
Interesting contradictions there. All right, Katelyn Polantz, great reporting. Thank you very much. Sarah.
All right, James Eisenman is now joining us. He previously worked on that little-known Merit Systems Protection Board that Katelyn was just mentioning. He is with me to talk through this. What power does this board have to reinstate employees?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. The Merit Systems Protection Board has the power to hear appeals from federal employees, federal whistleblowers who have been fired or retaliated against. And the board has the authority through either its administrative judges or the board itself to reinstate federal employees who've been wrongly fired.
How does the board work?
So the board works through initially appeals to administrative judges. The board has regional and field offices throughout the country. There are about 65 administrative judges. Someone, a federal employee who was fired, files an appeal in one of those regional offices. The administrative judge conducts a hearing, much like a trial, except there's no jury. Calling of witnesses, bringing of evidence, the judge issues a decision. That decision from the judge can be appealed to the 3 board members at headquarters of the MSPB.
I want to get your take on this. We just heard from an employee and her attorney who said that she was fired for what DOJ called poor performance. She says, though, she has never had a poor performance review in her almost 20 years working for Veterans Affairs, and she had just changed her position and became a provisional employee. She says her supervisor wasn't even aware she was being fired. She just got an email saying that her job had been terminated for poor performance. How does DOJ have all this power? And are you seeing something here that just doesn't make sense? It's something the board could look at.
Yeah, that's a great question, how DOJ has this authority. I'm not quite sure that they actually do have this authority. And these notices that have been going out to federal employees throughout the federal government about their performance being subpar are really just cookie cutter. They're not individualized evaluations of employees' performance, which to me just shows what a sham the entire process of firing these probationary employees is.
What can employees do if they've lost their jobs? And I mean, do they have to hire an attorney? Is that what they have to do, even though they're in this financial situation that, you know, many of them may not be able to afford one?
Right. There are a number of groups that are working to help federal employees in all these situations to address or get redress for their rights. They don't have to hire attorneys. The process is an administrative process, which is designed, hopefully, for individuals to manage it themselves. However, this can be a complicated area, especially whether someone is a probationary employee or not. But there are a number of groups out there that are trying to assist federal employees as they go through this very, very difficult and complicated time. But there are a lot of groups out there trying to help them out.